welcome into Views from the Sidelines. Across from me, Malik Hill. I'm Joey Tysick. And as always, we are in crazy times where there's a lot going on. We just finished up with the Super Bowl, so now we're into basketball mode. College basketball is back on the docket now. I'm watching more than I have been, so we're slowly ramping that up. NBA is kind of good because the Pistons are good, so we got to talk about them a little bit. Trade deadline just passed. For those of you that are crazy into all sorts of sports like me, the Daytona 500 is coming up this Sunday. We got the Masters in, a month? So there's a lot of fun sports coming up. And hockey, I guess, if you care about that too. Tigers didn't get Alex Bregman. So Tigers fans, I don't know how people feel about the Tigers. But another day, another time. Super Bowl happened, and it was possibly one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever watched.
I enjoyed it.
Just because the beatdown?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. So
I understand the argument of wanting a great game and all of that, but seeing all the Chiefs' weird, dark magic that was keeping them afloat all season, where they just kept winning games at the last minute, it was so satisfying seeing them get destroyed.
Yeah.
Piece by piece.
So the Eagles won 40-22, and it
wasn't that close.
No, it was basically 40-6.
Yeah.
And then the Chiefs scored really quickly towards the end, a couple times. A big play to Xavier Worthy to basically end the game as well. So, yeah, it was pretty rough, but it was fun in the fact that I'm glad that Jalen finally won the Super Bowl because he played good in the last one that he was in 2 years ago. And, people started doubting him again, saying, oh, he's not that good. He's great. He plays so good in these kind of games. I don't know why, but he's a gamer. He didn't do, obviously the numbers aren't crazy. He was 17 of 22, but he threw for 230, 240. That's just off the top of my head. I don't remember.
And he also rushed for 75 yards.
Yeah, rushed for 75 yards, threw 2 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown. So, he did everything he needed to do. And Saquon Barkley was held in check for once. So, I think he did really good. Now, obviously, their defense was amazing. Cooper DeJean, pick 6.
Loved it.
That's great. I sent you the message, and I never looked it up if that's the first ever white guy pick 6 in a Super Bowl, but
listen,
it's probably pretty likely.
There's a very good chance that it is. There's a very good chance.
Hey,
unless there was a pick 6 in the first 2 or 3 Super Bowls, maybe.
It gives white guys a hope that they can maybe play cornerback in the future.
Just go to Iowa and be extremely super athletic.
Yeah, super athletic.
And maybe you can do it.
People started posting his high school basketball.
Jumping,
his mixtape.
Hops out the gym,
ooh, boy.
Dunking on everybody. Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's why he's an elite athlete.
Oh,
he's
different.
He's not just another
Yeah. So that was fun. Obviously, their front seven were really good. It was great to see Brandon Graham get another Super Bowl. Was he hurt for the original one with Nick Foles?
I remember him playing.
Did he play? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was some weird thing that he didn't play, but I could be just wrong. So it's cool for him because he was thinking about retiring at one point. And I can't remember if he said he's going to be back next year again or what, but I believe he's a free agent either way. But he knew for sure that he wanted to come back this season, which was cool. They ended up winning. And there's just felt like a lot of redemption type stuff to see. And then, of course, to see Patrick Mahomes have one of his worst games ever was also kind of good. I've always been a fan of Patrick Mahomes, but in the last, year or so, he's started to do the LeBron thing where he's starting to, whine and complain a little bit more.
To me, he just hasn't been that good.
No. Yeah.
In past seasons, he was extremely dominant, and, it was obvious that he was a future, all-time great.
Right.
This season, there just wasn't much outside of every time he made a standout highlight play, of course it would blow up.
Mm-hmm.
But consistent high level play just wasn't there for most of the season, and they still were winning somehow, which was pissing everybody off.
Yeah. Do you see anything like, because I've heard a lot of people say like the Eagles went all in this offseason. They got a bunch of key guys to get to that Super Bowl. Do you think that lays the groundwork for what the Lions need to do this offseason?
I mean, there are small bits and pieces like having a dominant D-line that you don't need to blitz and you can just rush for and they can just go nonstop for an entire game.
Yeah.
Like the fact that most of their best D-linemen are all like under 25 and 26. And they're all just getting started. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. I mean, it's wild how good they are, how aggressive they are. And Pat Mahomes just never had time to breathe.
Yeah.
Until late in the game where he had a few big throws, but that was about it.
Right. And it was already over at that point. Like, nobody was really trying as hard, in my opinion. So, yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. Wasn't the most exciting Super Bowl, but I'm sure most of the country was happy to see Patrick Mahomes go down. And, we'll see what happens. See what happens next year and this offseason, because there's a lot of moving parts. The NFL draft is in 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that like hurts my
time is flying, man.
That like hurts my head to think about that kind of stuff. So yeah, Super Bowl come and gone. Kind of a disappointing end of the season in a way. But glad it's over.
It wasn't the matchup anybody really wanted.
No, not really.
So it was going to be disappointing unless it was like an all-time great game.
Yeah.
Most people didn't even want that matchup, even though the viewership I heard was like
one of the best.
Yeah, one of the best. So
probably again just to see Patrick Mahomes lose potentially.
Yeah.
I do know that viewership also peaked at halftime apparently. So people aren't in it for the game; they're in it for the halftime shows, which is interesting. But
yeah,
I guess I get it. I also forgot that Super Bowls are all about the commercials, or that they used to be. Because once again, for like, I don't know, 4th, 5th year in a row, I did not find very many commercials at all entertaining.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Outside of like 4 or 5 Super Bowl commercials,
you don't even remember them? Yeah. I feel the same way.
I have no memory of a year where Super Bowl commercials were just, oh my God, this is what we're like. I've heard this my entire life that like there are people that show up to Super Bowl parties just for the commercials.
Yep.
Like commercials have never been that amazing to me. Like I enjoy movie trailers more than Super Bowl commercials. Yeah. It's never been like an amazing thing to me.
I felt like there was some in the past here and there that were funny. And maybe that's just, the child in me, but like I don't remember anything from this year. Now I was busy. I was hanging with family, so we're not fully watching when the game's not on, but the only one that I really remember is the seal commercial as a seal because it was just so odd. And at first I didn't even know what they were advertising. And then it's like Mountain Dew Baja Blast. What? I didn't see the correlation. I didn't understand it. Didn't find it funny. And it was just weird. So I guess it worked in that
I remember a few of them. Like I'm pretty sure the first one was the Dunkin' Donuts Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck commercial. That was pretty entertaining. The one where Eugene Levy's mustache flew off. I think that was the McDonald's commercial or something.
Yeah.
Like I remember a few of them, but yeah, I have no memory of.
The other one that I just thought of is the David Beckham and Matt Damon one. Did you see that one?
I don't even remember it.
So like David Beckham hears about another David Beckham or something that's in the United States. Turns out to be like Matt Damon or something. It was weird.
Yeah, I have no memory.
I didn't fully get that one either. But yeah, I don't know. The Super Bowl commercial is just not what they used to be, or maybe I'm just misremembering. So yeah. NFL
I don't understand opinions on that or halftime shows, but yeah.
That's a deeper topic that we don't have to worry about. We'll talk about it afterwards. So the other exciting thing after the NFL season ended, we had the NBA trade deadline. And the NBA trade deadline has been, it's been all right the last few years. Not too bad, nothing too crazy. This year was kind of crazy.
Some people would say the craziest in NBA history.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say kind of.
it's kind of like
Because most years people hope for craziness and they get
Yeah.
like one good trade.
yeah. And this was
This was a lot.
This was a few days before the deadline. And it was very surprising. To me, it's kind of like cooled off in my head at the moment that like, yeah, it's crazy, but I don't know. I'd have to go through the archives to see what the craziest of all time would be. It probably is still because nothing that insane really ever happens to be two all NBA type guys. But we started off with the Lakers getting Luka Doncic from the Mavs for Anthony Davis. So Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleba, Markieff Morris go to the Lakers. The Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. And then, of course, Danny Ainge, being himself, gets 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
And Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Had to get a piece of the action.
I don't know how that happened. But what were your first thoughts? Like, did you go crazy like everybody else?
Nobody thought it was real.
Mhm.
Everybody thought it was a hacked shams tweet.
Yeah.
It took like 5 to 10 minutes for it to set in that it was actually real.
Yeah.
And then the questions just started firing. Like, why would this happen?
Mm-hmm.
What were the reasons? And it's still very confusing. We got answers and quote-unquote answers that still seem puzzling from Nico Harrison. He had a really awkward and strange press conference with Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
Where Jason Kidd didn't say much and just sat there looking like, I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still kind of like mind-numbing that it all went down. And it's even stranger after Anthony Davis plays one game and then gets hurt.
Yeah. And dominates for 3 quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It seems like how do we feel? You can't determine it until like 2 years down the road.
Right. And most likely, like a lot of people are saying, like, this is the Lakers setting themselves up for the future post LeBron. And this is the Mavs saying, we need to win now. Like, this is our window, and we don't think Luka's the guy. And I said it a couple times, like, that's how I felt about Luka for a long time. But last year they made the NBA Finals. Now he struggled in the NBA Finals. He did not look good.
It looked like he ran out of gas.
And a lot of people called him out for it. So I kind of get it from the Mavericks' perspective. But it's hard because now
you lost the fan base forever.
Yeah, well that's
that's one part of it.
That's the dramatics though, to an extent.
Is it?
I think so.
Is it?
It's hard. It's hard for me.
This isn't LeBron leaving Cleveland in 2010.
I know, but
where a player just willingly leaves.
Yeah. And I know, like, I think differently.
And it's Dallas.
I think differently than a lot of NBA fans. I get that. So my feelings are different. I don't know how I would feel if this was like the Pistons. Like if the Pistons
traded Cade, I think Pistons fans would have a reason.
They would.
Kinda, yeah.
Well, this year they would have.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Like if the Pistons had Luka Doncic and they traded for Anthony Davis. But
we also didn't make the finals last year.
Well, that's what I'm trying to just say. If the Pistons were in the exact same spot as the Mavericks with the exact same roster type stuff, how would I feel about this trade?
Luka Doncic is a 5-time All-NBA player.
Yeah.
He's 25? Is he 25?
Yeah, I believe so.
He's 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his prime.
Yeah.
He hasn't been in great shape since like his rookie year, second year,
mm-hmm.
and he still dominates the league.
Yeah.
He's a generational player in Dallas. You've only had 2 in your franchise history. Mm-hmm. You're not Boston. You're not LA. You're not even the Pistons. You don't have 3 championships. The Pistons have multiple Hall of Fame players over like a 40-year span.
Yeah.
Dallas has Dirk, Steve Nash for like 3 years.
And
one of your best players in franchise history is Rolando Blackman, Jason Terry.
Yeah.
You traded Jason Kidd after 3 years. Like, this is Dallas history.
Mm.
A bunch of nothing, an era of pretty good, and then a championship that raised up the city. And then you luck up and get this guy.
Yeah. It's
and
hard,
now,
but like Luka Doncic could just be, and depending on how you feel, you may love it or hate it, is Luka Doncic just another like James Harden? Is that good enough for your franchise? Where, yeah, he looks great all the time, but you never end up winning.
Is it good enough for the Dallas Mavericks?
I don't know.
That's what I keep coming back to.
But
these fans, this is all they want. Winning a championship, we got one with Dirk, and that was incredible.
But wouldn't you
Getting
want
this
more?
right now, yes, you would want more. But when there's no history of more.
But if you're going to take a chance, I don't know, maybe they feel like this is their chance. And it's front office, but still, like, I kind of get it. I don't love it, but I can see it.
There's a very small perspective where I got it.
And
very small.
And that's why the optics of it now suck, because Anthony Davis dominated. He was trying to prove something, and then he ends up getting hurt. And all the Mavericks fans, when they heard the trade, talked about, oh, Anthony Davis is so injury prone. If you look at the last 2-3 years, he's played a lot of games. He hasn't actually had many injury problems. Luka has sat more games in the last couple years. And then, of course, he gets injured on his first game. So,
and now you have an arena full of fans wearing 77 jerseys.
It's just, the timing is unfortunate. On top of it.
How are they? If you're a Mavericks fan, do you just switch alliances?
No.
Why do you stay with the Mavericks? Tell me, Joey. Why? Just because it's your team?
Yeah. And I think differently.
Is another generational prospect coming?
That's the hard part for me, is that the problem becomes, if this does fail,
then there's nothing left after.
Their turnaround is going to be brutal. That's the hard part. If they can somehow manage to win a chip, though, in these 2 years.
And I don't even see it happening, but they're going to try.
I don't know if I do either, just because Klay Thompson isn't Klay Thompson anymore.
AD is, what is he, 31? 32?
Something like that, yeah. He's like my age.
He has a 2-year window.
Right.
So it's 2 years.
But look how dominant he is. And, that's all I'm saying, is that I get it, but Nico Harrison's not wrong. Luka Doncic does not play defense.
He doesn't.
He doesn't do anything for you defensively. If anything, he lets people go a lot. So he's giving you offensive numbers. And you already have Kyrie. You traded for Klay Thompson. Again, Klay Thompson isn't what he used to be. But you already have guys that don't really play defense. Klay Thompson doesn't play defense like he used to. Kyrie Irving doesn't play defense.
Kyrie gives effort. He's not an elite defender, but Kyrie gives effort.
So if you add, and this is just their thinking, and it also just, Mavericks have terrible luck right now. You think, man, you have an ascending P.J. Washington, an ascending Daniel Gafford, who has been a great defender.
Derek Lively when he comes back. You hit on him.
He's been great. So you add Anthony Davis, your front court is so dominant defensively. And then P.J. Washington added this offensive type to his game. That sounds pretty good on paper. Derek Lively got hurt before this trade. Anthony Davis gets hurt. Daniel Gafford gets hurt. Did P.J. Washington go out with something?
I don't think so.
Okay. So P.J. Washington's still there. But, they have all these injuries stacking up at the worst possible time for their franchise. That's the part that sucks.
And it's not like something you couldn't see coming.
No.
Because Anthony Davis has a history with injury. So you were taking a bet on that too.
Yeah. But.
And his age.
Now we can go to the reverse. Luka plays his first game in the Lakers. Doesn't do a whole lot. They win, but they played Utah. Now, last night, they played Utah again.
Well, he's played two games with the Lakers. And like you said, he's the future. So it's a completely different view of what he's supposed to be for the future of the Lakers.
I know, but you're still pairing up.
It's not a 2-year window.
You're still pairing up Luka and LeBron. So
I don't expect them to win a championship.
Have you seen Lakers
fans, but you know how stupid Lakers fans
I'm
can
just
be.
Saying. And a lot of people.
I think half of them are still realistic and don't expect to win a championship.
I'm sure Mavs fans are like, oh man, now the Lakers could win the whole thing because they got our guy. And they have LeBron.
Listen, they signed Alex Len, and he looked terrible last night. Lakers fans are still panicking.
They got blown out.
While they're also excited about Luka.
They got blown out by the Jazz last night, and Luka didn't do anything again.
They still have to find a big man, so they know
that's a whole.
They got to. They have to find something because
that's another funny thing.
I guess we'll bring that up.
Well, we can bring it up right now. That trade didn't work out. They were going to trade Dalton Connect for Mark Williams.
Yeah.
Which also on paper doesn't sound great, but when you think about the logistics,
it seemed exciting in the moment.
Yeah, they needed to do something, but Lakers fans didn't want to give up Connect. But I don't think they realized how good Mark Williams can be when
I think
healthy.
after like they accepted it and were starting to get excited.
Yeah. And of course, another guy that's injury prone fails his physical. Now we don't know the semantics about it. The trade got rescinded. Was it the Hornets were appealing? The Hornets were appealing. Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen? Probably nothing.
Yeah. Now Dalton Connect is like sulking at the end of the Lakers bench.
Yeah, he sat out his first game back because he wasn't ready. Okay, sure, whatever. But yeah, that was weird. So both teams have kind of had some bad luck with this trade, which in turn is just kind of funny. But it was crazy. It's definitely a crazy trade. I think Mavs fans have to temper their expectations a little bit. Like, I don't think it's as bad as they think it is. But obviously, like, when we get down the road 4 or 5 years from now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
But here's the thing. It's not as bad as you think it is. But the expectation is supposed to be championship all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So what's the middle ground?
Yeah.
How is there a middle ground?
The other thing to bring up, like the sneaky part of it that people don't really, I don't know if they've really thought about it. If Luka Doncic goes to the Lakers and does well and stays healthy, maybe he all of a sudden gets in shape. You got to start questioning the Mavericks athletic training staff because they keep getting all these guys injured. Maybe it's injury. Maybe it's just dumb luck, or maybe it is something with their training staff just isn't doing something right. Now, I think Luka's a little different story because there's a pretty long history of just not fully caring about things, having a little bit of a drinking problem at times, getting a little too excited about things, and I don't know. So it's hard to say, and we won't know, like you said, till a couple years down the line. But I don't know. I think Anthony Davis still has some years left in him. Now, I kind of agree. I think 2 more years of like dominance.
The roster is old.
Yeah.
And no big time free agent is just like
there.
walking to Dallas.
Right.
They never have.
Yeah. So maybe that's the way to do it is like all these guys will age out at the same time, and then they do a full rebuild with somebody brand new.
Let's go with Derek Lively and Max Christie in our rebuild.
Well, they would get a top draft pick at that point because they're not going to be good enough.
I guess, but yeah, let's just do it all over again.
How does your brother feel playing for Dallas? Would he go to Dallas to play?
Who?
Your brother.
My brother.
I'm saying that's how far down the prospects.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it was
okay.
convoluted.
Yeah, it wasn't clicking.
So your brother is class of
2029.
Yeah. Hey, that's the first round pick the Mavericks got.
Listen,
they got the 2029 first round pick from the Lakers.
If you're a Mavericks fan, I say don't go to games. If you want to watch at home, cool. But why would you go to games?
I don't know.
Especially while Anthony Davis isn't playing.
Yeah, that's like I said, that I think is the hard part. Because if Anthony Davis was playing and he played as good as he did those first 3 quarters of that game, Mavs fans might have been okay.
Also, if they don't win a championship, Nico Harrison's legacy is cemented.
I agree with that.
And not in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the boldest.
Yeah.
One of the boldest moves we've ever seen, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The other big trade also happened on the same day. I believe it was later that night. The Spurs got De'Aaron Fox from the Sacramento Kings. The Spurs got De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. Kings got Zach LaVine, Sidi Sissoko, and a bunch of picks. A 2025 first round from the Hornets, which is going to be good. 2027 first round from the Spurs. 2031 first round from the Wolves. 2025 second from the Bulls. 2028 second. 2028 second from the Nuggets and Bulls as well. And then the Bulls, they were the third team involved. They got Zach Collins, my guy Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and the 2025 first-round pick from the Spurs. So a mess of picks, but I believe the Spurs, can't remember the updated picks, if the Spurs still own other first-round picks. I believe they do. Anyway, so the Spurs magically could still. I think there's a way they could still end up with like getting Cooper Flag if they don't like elevate their game to make it to the postseason, which is wild to me. I will bring up my pitchforks. But how do you feel about this trade? De'Aaron Fox pairing up with Victor Wembanyama, and then the Kings kind of changing the direction of their franchise, which today they just signed Markelle Fultz as their backup point guard. So how do you feel about these two teams? The Spurs, who are kind of entering their window, and the Kings, who are somewhat in the Mavs situation where they're trying to push for getting back to the playoffs and making a run.
Well, the Spurs thing has been in talks for over a year at this point because everybody talked about Trae Young potentially being traded to the Spurs.
Yeah.
And apparently, according to insiders, that was still in talks like up to the moment before they decided to trade for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
But after like the first 2 games, it looked like a really good move, De'Aaron and Wemby paired together. The lineup decisions they've made since have really made no sense. Like, I don't know why they still have CP starting. He should be the backup point guard, and Stephon Castle should be getting more minutes. But it's like opposite, so I don't know what they're really doing with that.
I think
so
they
far.
just want to keep a veteran guy out there. That's just all my thought.
You got Harrison Barnes in the starting lineup. Like,
yeah.
Just you traded for De'Aaron Fox for a reason. Like, him and Wemby are the focal points. CP is still like a leader, but bring him off the bench, it doesn't make much sense. So the way they've played has been weird, but De'Aaron and Wemby have still been good. It's I don't know how to feel about it yet. It should be good in the long run. The Kings, they don't have a starting point guard. Like, I see no. You got Zach LaVine and DeRozan.
Malik Monk is starting right now.
Yeah, like he's better off the bench. I don't see him being like excellent as a starter. You paired the Bulls backcourt again. They were like winning 30-something games a season. I like getting Valanciunas to help out Sabonis so he can play the 4 primarily. But you don't have a point guard. In the West, I don't know who you're scaring. It's still just like a weird Sacramento team. Yeah. Like, they have a lot of talent, and they should be fun at times. But, I don't see it. I don't see it with Sacramento.
Yeah, I think it's kind of – they needed something for De'Aaron Fox because it didn't – like, he was going to be a free agent, probably going to sign somewhere else, so you might as well get something. And I think – I mean, really, Zach LaVine is a pretty good get for, possibly losing your star point guard. And because of LaVine's contract, you can get a pretty decent deal for him. So I think that's why they just had to do it. I'm kind of in agreement. I don't love it, especially because of the point guard situation. But it still gives them a window of opportunity. LaVine's been playing one of his best seasons. DeRozan's still not too bad. Sabonis is an all-star. And then Valanciunas gives you another veteran presence as a big.
If they were in the East, they would probably make the playoffs and maybe could be able to win a series. But
yeah,
I don't see it in the West, really.
Yeah. So who knows? There was a lot of other little deals. And then Pistons made some small moves. They got a bunch of guys and then traded them away. Got a bunch of guys, traded them away. They stashed some picks, which I didn't love. They stashed a bunch of second-round picks. And I don't think they traded away too many of those picks. It looks like they only traded like one of them away. And then they ended up getting Dennis Schroeder along with another first-round pick. So, yeah, I mean, Dennis Schroeder for the Pistons.
I like it.
I don't mind it. I like it. I don't love it, though, because.
I think they just needed a veteran backup point guard. Like,
yeah.
Besides Lonzo Ball, what else? What are the other options that you really thought were better?
I don't know. I just kind of I was in the mindset of I'm okay with playing the young guys still. Like I don't like is this team ready to just have a Dennis Schroeder to push them to the next level? Like it just seems like a very meh move to me. Now right now he's turning out pretty good. He looks good. He enjoys the team atmosphere, apparently. So I can't complain, but I don't know. It's just a very. I wanted them to do more.
That's why I said outside of the Lonzo, but what else could they have done?
Well, I wanted them to like go after somebody like a Brandon Ingram or Zach LaVine type thing. Like I wanted them to really push. Like they're talking up Cade so much, and the atmosphere of this team is so good right now. Why don't you make that push to see if you can just get to that next level?
I can understand that.
That's kind of what I was feeling.
But also, if that wasn't going to happen, I'm sure they looked at the options.
Yeah. And we don't know,
and
like
if things fell through,
right,
and you couldn't get a big name,
yeah,
and the Chicago Bulls are like they've made up their mind that they want to keep Lonzo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
why not go? Why not add another vet?
Yeah, so we don't fully know, but it's just how I felt about it. The Suns got rid of Yusuf Nurkic. He went to the Hornets. The Suns got Cody Martin and Vasily Micic. Sure, whatever. The Suns are a nightmare. They didn't get anything done. They didn't trade Durant like they thought. Yeah. Some people thought towards the end. They
wanted to trade him to Golden State, but KD was like, "No, I don't want to go to Golden State."
Yeah, they never found a deal for Bradley Beal. Like the Suns are in trouble. The Bucks, they got Kevin Porter Jr. from the Clippers, which has actually worked out kind of well for them right now, which is surprising. The other like weird, surprising trade that I saw was the Clippers getting Bogdan Bogdanović, and the Hawks in that trade getting from the Clippers Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, and 3 second-round picks. Seems like a lot for Bogdanović, in my opinion. He hasn't played as good the last couple years, but I don't know. He might have had one of those big inflated contracts from a couple years ago, so I'm not fully sure, but whatever. Those are two teams that are kind of right on the bubble of playoff stuff.
I think it's funny that you brought up the Bucks and just did not bring up Kyle Kuzma and brought up Kevin Porter Jr.
You were going to it.
Okay.
I'm going in.
When you said Bucks, I immediately thought you were about to say Kyle Kuzma, and then you said Kevin Porter. I was
well, just because I saw that Kevin Porter,
I didn't even realize he was with the Bucks.
He had like a pretty good game the other night, and they won last night without Giannis and Damian Lillard, which was wild, over the Timberwolves of all teams.
They're a mess within itself.
Yeah. So the trade you're talking about, the Bucks traded for Kyle Kuzma. Okay. The Bucks traded for Kyle Kuzma and Jericho Sims with 2 second-round picks along, and they sent the Wizards Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson.
Poor Chris Middleton.
And then the Knicks were just kind of a part of the trade, and the Spurs were just kind of a part of the trade.
Yeah.
So basically, the Bucks and Wizards swapped Kyle Kuzma and Chris Middleton.
And Kyle Kuzma hasn't been that much better than Chris Middleton this year. Kyle Kuzma hasn't been that good this year.
No.
And they just went for like a maybe younger version of what they could turn into Chris. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a weird move.
Yeah.
Lateral move, kind of.
Yeah. The Wizards are like grasping for straws at this point. We'll get to another trade that they did in a little bit. There's the rescinded trade. Oh, yeah. Cam Reddish was also involved in the Dalton Connect Mark Williams trade. Man, that's a disappointing draft pick right there. Cam Reddish.
He'll probably be overseas very soon. Yeah, teams keep giving him chances. It's rough.
Yeah. And then the sneaky trade, the Cavs got DeAndre Hunter, and the Hawks got Karis LeVert and Georges Niang.
I love this move for Cleveland.
It actually has kind of worked out for both teams because the Hawks lost to the Knicks last night in overtime.
Yeah.
But LeVert and Niang actually had good games. I think they both scored 20 points. And the Hawks got a couple of picks. And then the Cavs upgraded. They got DeAndre Hunter, goes into their starting lineup. So they kind of have a weird big lineup where they play like DeAndre Hunter alongside Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, but then they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. So it's kind of a fun little lineup.
I really love the way it balances out.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been auditioning different threes for like 4 years now. Isaac Okoro clearly wasn't going to become a good enough shooter to start.
Mm-hmm.
They've tried multiple guys, but yeah, if DeAndre Hunter can play how he's played in the past year, because his first like 4 years were like on and off, up and down, showing the talent, but it's never realizing. And this year he's averaging like 19, shooting like 42% from three, playing the best ball of his career.
Yeah. So
this could turn into something for the Cavs, and they could really be a contender.
Mm-hmm. Couple other the bigger moves before we get to the last big move. I mentioned the Wizards got involved in another trade. They got Marcus Smart Colby Jones, Alex Len, and a first-round pick from the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies got 2 second-round picks, Marvin Bagley III, Johnny Davis.
I actually think Marvin could end up being decent for them. But Johnny Davis, we're not going to talk about.
And then sneakily, the Kings got in there and got Jake LaRavia, which is actually not bad.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Marcus Smart, Grizzlies already failed on that signing.
They're winning, and they didn't need him. So
no.
Yeah.
So they just dumped his contract basically. So the Wizards said, you know what, we're not going anywhere. We might as well. It's a whatever trade. And then the Raptors, kind of to me the big surprise, getting Brandon Ingram and trading away Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk for a first and second round pick.
And they already extended Brandon Ingram. I think they did it
3
yesterday.
years.
Yeah,
3 years. I can't remember the amount. But yeah, that to me that's surprising. Just because I feel like the Raptors are in such a weird spot.
I think they're going to be one of the most frustrating young teams in the league for the next few years.
Yeah, and
even more than the Hornets.
It basically puts him as the cornerstone of their new team, but
him and Scotty Barnes basically.
Yeah, but other than that, they got a long way to go.
On paper, it looks decent.
Yeah,
like quickly, R.J. Barrett, Grady Dick.
Yeah, R.J. Barrett.
You got some good young talent, but what is it gonna like come together?
Yeah, it's a weird mesh.
Yeah.
A hodgepodge, as you might say.
Whose shots do you take away for Brandon Ingram to get his up? Like, how do you make him comfortable? It's a strange mix.
Right. So, and then finally, the big trade. The Warriors finally got somebody, as they were literally calling everybody, it sounded like.
It was kind of sad, desperate, like last era of the Warriors.
Yeah.
Where they can't get anybody to put next to Steph when they're still trying to win.
Yeah. So the Warriors received Jimmy Butler, 2 second-round picks from the Heat, and then the Heat got Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, Davion Mitchell from the Raptors, a 2025 protected first-round pick from the Warriors, and then this is where the Pistons got involved and the Jazz, and there was like Josh Richardson involved, KJ Martin all over the place. This is how the Pistons ended up with Dennis Schroeder, and then PJ Tucker going to the Raptors, and then he got cut and then signed with somebody, I believe. I can't remember.
I think his shoe collection is more interesting than his career at this point.
Yeah, for sure. But how do you feel about Jimmy Butler joining the Warriors?
It's looked pretty good so far. Mm-hmm. Whenever Jimmy moves, he's instantly he has energy, like he has a boost to start.
Right.
Within 3 years, it always ends up bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I still like Jimmy. I don't know if he's like my favorite guy anymore. He was my favorite player for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But as he gets older, his shtick is like getting old, just like he is.
Yeah.
But he's played well so far. When Steph has fallen off, he's given a boost. Steph has had more bad games than like really good games lately. I don't know if it's his age or like, I'm not sure what it is exactly. That might be it. But
yeah,
it takes pressure off of Steph, and they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what it does. Their window, it seems like it's closed.
Mm-hmm.
And this helps them win some more games, but I don't know what it does for them in the long run.
Don't know if it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. It does add some defensive prowess to their team that they haven't had in a little bit. Draymond and Jimmy is kind of a funny combination. But I do agree, like, if Steph can get going, because he's kind of struggled a little bit lately, then they always have a chance. But, as positive as I always am about the Warriors, I do feel like this is it's closing quickly if they don't figure something out. So
it's like good you having Pods and Trace Jackson Davis.
For them to like be so excited about not involving Pods in any trade is still weird to me.
And Kuminga's still supposed to be a focal point.
Yeah.
And it looks like he might not take the next step.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Yeah. It's very weird.
Yeah.
That Jordan Poole, that punch really might have been the end of everything. It's crazy.
It could be.
Yeah.
All right. So that's basically the NBA. We'll kind of keep watching as playoffs keep rounding out. We do have the All-Star weekend this weekend. If we have time at the end, we'll talk about some of it. But I want to get into college hoops because we might have a lengthy conversation about it.
And the Pistons are in the sixth seed going into the All-Star break.
Yep.
29 and 26.
Yeah. So they got a good record. They're looking good. And yeah, we have our first All-Star since, what did you say, 2009?
I think so.
Think
No, it was Blake Griffin. It was like 2017.
Yeah. That's right. So yeah, it's been wild. But college basketball also been wild. There's been a ton of upsets. Keeps kind of like the rankings keep flip-flopping all over the place. Auburn has continued to be number 1.
Yeah, the SEC is far and away the best conference in college basketball right now.
Yeah, but they're also eating at each other at the top, so it's like the rankings are kind of all over the place. And
some interesting things are happening in the
speaking
state of Michigan, Joey.
The rankings.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten Conference, there is a new leader amongst the teams. The Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
They just knocked off Purdue, who had been pretty hot as of late. And I just realized Michigan is 12-0 at home.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Malik?
This is the weirdest team that I've rooted for maybe ever. They are 11-2 in conference, 19-5 overall. They should be like 20-3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they lost on a 4-point play to Oklahoma. They should have beaten Arkansas in the Garden. There's no way to explain this team.
Yeah.
Like, you have no like real floor general. Trey Donaldson has these like high level stretches of scoring and playmaking, and then he'll turn it over like 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
Roddy Gale, I don't know what he is.
He came out of nowhere
He had his best
night.
game in like 3 weeks against Purdue.
Yeah.
Which was just out of nowhere. Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden are really good, but they still have ups and downs sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this team, Dusty May, there are moments where I have no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
And they're at the top of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
I think their last 5 games they've won have all been like 5 or less points.
Yeah.
In the end.
Well,
and they just keep finding ways to win every game.
And they were down against Purdue most of the game.
Yeah.
And then they ended up coming out strong at the end. They won by 2. Then before that, their other close games, they beat Indiana by 3.
Against lesser teams, they always like show that they're clearly the better team.
Yeah.
And then they play bad for like 6 minutes and let a team come back.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Like you mentioned, their last few games, again, beat Indiana by 3.
Yeah.
They beat Oregon by 4.
Listen, they were up by like almost 20 on Indiana. They were up by like 12 on Oregon.
They beat Rutgers by 3.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Penn State by 4, who was one of the worst teams in the Big Ten.
And they were down by like 5 against Penn State with like a minute 30 left. And Trey Donaldson scored 7 in the last minute 30.
Yeah. They got blown out by Purdue the last time. They beat Northwestern by 4 in overtime. They lost to Minnesota by 3 in overtime. But yet they just knocked off Purdue, and now they're the best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah. I don't know how to define this team. Like, they're frustrating every game.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to lose at like 5 different points every game. Mm-hmm. And then they win, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That just works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's wild. Like, their highs are so high, and their lows make you think like they're just not that good.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
But they're number 1 in the Big Ten.
And they have a favorable schedule to end the year somewhat.
Yeah.
They got Ohio State, then they play Michigan State, but that's at home. Then they go to Nebraska. They're at home against Rutgers. They're at home against Illinois, at home against Maryland, and then they have to go to East Lansing final game. But so they have so many home games, and they've been so good at home. Like, I don't know, this team could finish out being the regular season title holder. It's gonna come down to those Michigan State games.
I have no idea if they're gonna win the regular season title. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, they could win the regular season title. They could lose like 4 games in the next like 6.
Mm-hmm.
They could make the Final 4. They could lose in the first round.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this team is gonna do.
Welcome.
It's like a mini heart attack every game.
Welcome to the last like 4 years of Michigan State basketball.
Well, you've somewhat learned to what to expect from them.
Yeah.
But
there's times where they just like
this is the best start to a season they've had in like the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
What this team is doing.
Yeah.
Even though this stretch that you're gonna get to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Michigan, they're all over the place. and they have really good players. And I don't know.
Yeah.
They're a good team. That could be great, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm happy they're first in the Big Ten, and I'm just rolling with what's going on.
Yeah.
Extend Dusty May. Just extend them. They were three. They won like 6 games last year total.
Something
like
that.
2 or 3 games in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it was ugly.
It's an insane turnaround.
Yeah. And then on the other side, Michigan State had been cruising for a while.
Yeah.
Made it all the way to number 7 by the end of January.
I say that Oregon win where Jace Richardson went off was like the tip of like the point.
Yeah. But even before that, like.
Now, there were clear signs of things that could get weird.
Yeah. I mean, the beginning of February has been rough. They lost to USC by 6. Lost to UCLA
lost on the West Coast trip to both teams.
By 2. Then, like you said, they came back. They beat Oregon by 12. Jace Richardson went
off.
Electric. He had 29 points. Super efficient still. And then they come back home.
Everybody thinks Indiana's going to lose. Everybody thinks Michigan's going to lose.
And they lose to Indiana, Malik.
Yeah.
This isn't Victor Oladipo, Indiana.
Mike Woodson on his last leg of coaching Indiana, where half the time they don't look motivated.
This isn't Coach Knight at Indiana.
This isn't Tom Crean's Indiana, where they made the tournament like 4 times in like 6 or 7 years.
This isn't even is it Yogi Ferrell?
That was Tom Crean, Indiana.
Okay,
yeah.
that was. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You're right.
Yogi Ferrell, Victor Oladipo, Cody Zeller. Those teams were really good.
Man, and they just, this is my problem with Michigan State. You just said it about Michigan. They're so frustrating. Michigan State is the exact same way sometimes, where it's like, this is what scares me when they get into the tournament.
The first half of the season, they look like a quintessential Izzo team.
Mm-hmm.
Play hard, play smart. The veterans are there when you need them. The young guys make some contributions.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
Most bit like great Izzo teams, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And trustable guard play, but
yeah,
they've had that for the most part.
Right.
It's getting sketchy.
And then you think, okay, Indiana, they shot 48% from the field, 23% from 3. Most likely Michigan State wins, right? No, because Michigan State shot 38% from the field and 17% from 3.
Here's the thing. Indiana decided to play a 2-3. And Michigan State just didn't know what to do.
Surprise.
Besides throw up threes. They just didn't know what to do.
Which is something that team is not good at.
At all. They're one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country.
And finally, Jace Richardson came back down to earth.
Yeah.
He had a bad game, 1 of 6 from 3. Shot okay from the field, 5 of 12. Jaden Akins, who's been, honestly, to the expectation, he's been god-awful. He was 6 of 15 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3. He's still averaging 13 points a game. I think that's still the top of the team on 42% shooting on the year. That's not good.
So, just a question before you go into your thoughts.
Yeah.
What would you say are like the top 3 problems of MSU basketball, like on court play wise, the past 5-6 years, as they've been like just a decent team?
Yeah. Well,
what have been like the top 3 problems?
Obviously, the shooting woes.
Okay.
That's like number 1 because it just makes me mad as a shooter myself. The play of the bigs. And do I have a third? Usually, like, turnovers is kind of in there.
Okay.
But
are you terrified that they're all coming back at once?
Yeah. Because that was my next point in this
Okay.
game. If you look at the minutes, Jackson Kohler played 18 minutes. Xavier Booker played 8 minutes with 0 fouls. So
it seems like I've barely seen him play like in the past like 2 weeks.
yeah, I think
I haven't seen him much.
He's on.
Is he in the doghouse or something?
He's got to be. Carson Cooper played 16 minutes.
That's Izzo's guy. He's going to play. Carson Cooper is going to play a lot.
You can't when you got 5 fouls.
You're right.
So that's part of it. Jackson Kohler had 4 fouls. But, like, they're just not getting anything from them. They also have Zapala. He played 15 minutes. So it's like their bigs are all over the place. He also had 3 fouls. There's a ton of free throws in this game. We've mentioned it a couple times. Like, Jeremy Fears is just not.
He's not what.
there.
Yeah, what people expect. He's not there yet.
We're not even seeing what we saw, like, at the beginning of last year. So it's like I don't know what's going on. Frankie Fiddler isn't as involved.
He's kind of there.
Yeah, he had a decent game last night. Cohen Carr had 2 points. He shot 1 shot in the 11 minutes.
I feel like you didn't mention a third thing that I think is one of the biggest problems.
The development.
What is Cohen Carr right now?
That's been a long time coming.
What is Cohen Carr besides an insane dunker?
I don't know. He hit a 3 that I can't remember if his toe was on the line or they actually counted it as a 3, but he did hit like a deep shot the other night, a couple weeks ago actually now. But yeah, like, I don't know. But that's like the problem, and that's been the problem. But, like, you're seeing Cohen Carr and Xavier Booker getting no minutes. So I don't know if they're already being given up on, or, Tom Izzo's trying to prove his point, or what's going on. But there's just nothing coming from them. And then even Jace Richardson, it took Jace Richardson to have 29 points to finally start getting, like, meaningful minutes, it feels like.
He's your best offensive player.
And he just
whether that's good or bad, a reflection of what you've done in the past, like, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Jace Richardson is like your most dynamic scorer.
Mm-hmm. And he just, the back-to-back games. In the Oregon game, he played 35 minutes. In the Indiana game, he played 33 minutes. Before that, it was all right around 20, got bumped up to 25 for a couple games, and just not playing a whole lot. And now he's playing a whole lot. But, like, why did it take that long? I've been talking about Jace Richardson since the beginning of the season because he was so efficient.
Yeah.
And I know you can't keep that up for the whole season, but, like, I don't know.
And they were off to such a good start.
Yeah.
Now, the level of play they went against wasn't great.
Right. And we talked about that a little bit. Schedule was pretty easy compared to usual.
But, like I said, the vintage Izzo team,
mm-hmm.
what MSU fans, like, are used to seeing in the past, they started the season looking like the past.
Yeah.
So, some of the other things, they were still a bad three-point shooting team.
Mm-hmm.
The bigs still weren't the best when it came to, like, production.
Yeah.
Jackson Kohler has been coming into his own, which has helped.
Yeah.
Xavier Booker had good moments.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Akins had good games. Trey Holloman took a step.
Yep.
Shouts out to Trey Holloman. But back to what you were saying.
What was I saying?
Just the point you were continuing.
It's basically the opposite of Michigan now. Like, now, to close the season, at Illinois, Purdue at home, at Michigan, at Maryland. We play at home against Wisconsin, at Iowa, and then Michigan at Michigan State. That is a tough schedule.
Yeah.
You have some very tough road games. I don't know if they're going to go 500 in these last 7 games. 7 games. If they go 500, that's good. And if they go 500, that puts them 23-8, which isn't bad. But it could go sideways, and they could win like 2 of these games, and then they're 21-10, and then we're back to the good old Michigan State as a 7-8 seed in the tournament and get bounced in round 1. That's what I'm most scared of.
My last question was coming to the tournament. When you think about the elements of a tournament team,
mm-hmm.
what it takes to, like, make a run,
they don't have what I always say.
Okay.
I've said it for years.
Because when you look at, like, Michigan, you got 2 bigs that can give you production, and one of them, Danny Wolf, is like a point forward at 7 feet. He can
mm-hmm.
do everything.
Yeah.
You got a wild card point guard in Trey Donaldson who can score 25
mm-hmm.
if he's feeling it.
Yeah.
Amari Barnett is shooting like 44% from 3.
Yeah.
He's a knockdown shooter. Like you've got guys that you can picture in your head that can give you like tournament when the run starts, they can go.
Yeah. My only concern with Michigan is not really having enough senior guard play.
Yeah, that's why I said they could also go to the Final Four or lose in the first
They
round.
do have the 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
They have a guy that could go off at any time. Michigan State, they don't have the senior guard play. I mean, Jaden Akins.
Unless Jaden Akins goes on a run.
Maybe, which we saw a couple years ago he did, but I don't.
Like, maybe he turns into Matt McQuaid at the last minute where he just went crazy in the tournament.
Maybe. So they don't really have that. They don't have the 3-point shooting. They sort of have a guy, because it could be Jaden Akins. I would think if a guy is going to step up, it would be Jace Richardson in the tournament to carry them. But again, he's a freshman. Other than that, like that's none of the formula that I usually think of when I think of teams that could make a run or make an upset or something like that. So once again, I don't know where this team goes. And I don't know how they're going to finish the season. It could be really strong. They could win a lot of these games and be like, oh, we're still here. We're playing good. Or it could go completely sideways. And then you're going into the tournament disappointed and like, wow, we thought we were good again, and we're not.
Yeah, it also depends on the Big Ten tournament, too. Like, what do they look like in the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah.
Are they like 1 and 2 are out?
Yeah.
Do they make a run to the championship? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And as we've already seen, lost to USC, lost to UCLA. Now, again, Michigan has had a lot of close games as well. They've been winning most of those close games.
Yeah.
It's just as scary, but they've been on the winning side.
And they've also shown early in the season they do have it in them to like take out teams and win convincingly.
Yeah.
They beat USC and UCLA on the road, and it wasn't like much of a fight.
Yeah.
Like it was close in the beginning, and then they took off.
Yeah.
They haven't done it recently, but they've shown they can do it.
Yeah. And the bigger thing for me, and it's recency bias, but they were at home against Indiana, and they struggled heavily, and nobody was able to step up. They need to figure out a way to get their big men involved. They don't use them. I know they're not that kind of bigs.
Kohler is the one guy you can give the ball, and he can make things happen.
Yeah. But the other problem is like the classic Michigan State big is more of the enforcer type of role.
That's why he loves Carson Cooper so much. But
he doesn't.
He's also not a high level enforcer.
Exactly.
Which is why you got Zapala, but he's also not a high level enforcer.
He's not as skilled.
He's good. Yeah.
So it's kind of a mess.
It's a bunch of stuff that's like in the middle.
Mm-hmm. They're one of those teams. They got good depth. They could make a run in the tournament. The biggest problem is they need a lot of things to go right at the right time. And that's the part that makes me the most nervous.
How do you still not like have a good amount of production out of Xavier Booker?
I don't know. That's one of the biggest.
He is one of the biggest question marks, like in recent MSU basketball history.
Yeah.
What happened?
And the worst part is, if he goes to the NBA and turns out like Jaren Jackson, we will look back and say Tom Izzo should have been fired sooner.
The odds of that happening probably aren't great.
I know. I don't think he's the same talent level, obviously, but
who's the big that was one and done that was from Michigan? He was a freshman in like 20
from Michigan.
It was like right after Jaren Jackson. He was like a 4-star big 6'10", 6'11" kid from here.
Oh, Deontay Davis. Yeah.
Could end up being another Deontay Davis, even though he left after a year. But
true. Yep.
It was a thing where Deontay Davis and Izzo like
didn't mesh.
It didn't happen.
Yep. We'll see. Michigan State, always a mystery. But that's all the time we have. We're already done. So we'll give you updates next 2 weeks. I keep forgetting. Where these teams are at, because they'll have a couple big games in between. Like I said, Michigan State's going to have Illinois and Purdue. And, the Michigan game will happen before our next episode.
Yeah, February 21st.
Yeah. So, cool. We'll get to talk about that as well, which will be big. College basketball, that's kind of all I'm digging into.
We're a month away from the madness.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we'll do more in-depth about the other teams at the rankings. We'll give you that update about how 70% of the SEC teams are ranked. Crazy.
Yeah.
But this has been Views from the Sidelines, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.